So far we have been discussing about curves, some of the local properties, and even some global properties like the area. If you have a simple closed curve, then what happens to the area, what is the relation between length of the curve and area, and then also this vertices that can happen. So the way those are all properties. These properties you get it from the whole curve together, not looking at some points or around. You need to look at the whole curve as one object. But what are the specialities of all these curves together? What kind of feel one get for this curves? I mean, this is a bit abstract kind of piece of mathematics. Curves are of this type. What other kinds of objects that you come across in mathematics that you work with? Natural objects. For instance, suppose I give you a sphere. Is this a curve? Answer is no. Whatever be the definition that we had, there must be a function from the interval to this, you will never get this. So, I mean, visibly what kind of difference that you observe is, this looks like what should I say? It is, the line will have only one direction kind of a thing, whereas on a sphere you have many directions in that sense. So there is something called a dimension. This is a one-dimensional thing, this is more than one-dimensional. These are, of course, to our intuitive notion, we call this two dimensions. Okay, so this is the one that describes, differentiates between curves and objects like this. You can also have higher dimension. This is generally a two-dimension. This is a feeling. What it means, we have to, mathematically what it means requires work, requires more precise definition. But certainly there is a difference. Even the mathematical definition that we had for this, you will not get it. Okay. Well, that requires work, but doesn't matter. You can take it. Okay. So, what is the speciality of this? If you look around the point, it looks like a bent planar piece. If you just look on the sphere and look around you, you will see a bent piece kind of, and planar piece. So there is something close to this is the plane. Only thing is that there is a small bending, nothing else. A plane and sphere, if you look at, just look around you, they look almost same, except careful checking, you will see that in the plane there is no bending on, you see, but here there is a bending. It's again a point, but if you look at the whole thing, certainly it doesn't look like plane. There is a lot of difference. But, so this, basically it's done by the dimension. Similarly here, if you look at very closely, it looks like a small line segment. Again, maybe a bending. So easier, so two dimension. You can also think of 3 dimension, 4 dimension, etc. very generally. So then what is that we are going to talk? The 2-dimensional things generally is called surfaces. So one of the example that I gave here is called a surface. This is just a colloquial way I am telling. What it means we will see. How surfaces are built. Again, the model, the simple one that we know, simplest one of the surfaces that we take is plane. And not only that, all surfaces are built using the plane. So for instance, if somebody wants to make a ball, then you buy metal pieces from the market, and you can see those pieces are straight pieces. One piece, if you start bending, you find it extremely difficult to get a sphere. So you can't bend it because then you'll have to cut it, you will have a lot of difficulty. So what you do, you cut them into small, small pieces, bend a little bit each of them, which is not all that difficult. Then you weld them. Okay. If you see the football, you can see them. They are plain leather pieces. Then particular way you cut and then you stitch. So stitching is one way. That's one kind of procedure by which you join plain pieces to get surfaces. So what you start with is again a plain leather piece. You cut it into some pieces, maybe T shape, that shape, this shape, doesn't matter, triangular shape, whatever, various types of shapes you can take, and then you stitch these pieces on the boundaries together and then you form the surface. So that's one way. Another way is pasting. You take paper or models and then you start pasting them by applying gum. So slightly bend and then paste one more. The difference is, for stitching you only use the boundary, whereas pasting they overlap. Okay? Both has its advantage and disadvantage. The stitching has the disadvantage is that where they are stitched, you don't have very good understanding. Okay? The stitching business is generally, I mean, if you are familiar, it's called quotient. Pasting business also in some sense quotient, but it has a much better, both are quotients, but here the problem with this, at this point the two sides, you can't cross from this to this in some sense. So therefore this has a slight disadvantage. So we will look at pasting business. So what you do, you take plain pieces, then paste them each other wherever you can, and build. So what is that? Leaf plates we make by taking so many leaves and putting them together by clips, and then those, or wooden pieces, and then these are some of the examples where you get a surface. You can actually start bending. Many of these wooden baskets are made. They are not really pasted, but they also have that leaves getting pasted each other. You can do that. So this is the one that we are going to discuss. So the basic objects are plain pieces, and then the question next is, so that is known to you, R2. In the plain you take basic pieces, then you start putting them together, so pasting them together. So this has to be converted into good language. So all these intuitive things. So what you do is, first you decide yourself where do you want. Very general surfaces you don't put it anywhere, but in our study we study surfaces which are in R3. So that has a lot of advantage because it's very easy to get functions to study. So that's the reason. So surfaces in R3 we will study, but that's not very necessary. Our own definitions, if you really look carefully, you can extend it to R3 or nowhere, without that also. So what does it mean? So what you do is, surface something like this. So what you do is, at every, this is going to be, plain pieces patched up together. So many plain pieces are there, like this. So each are plain pieces. This is how you build up the surface. What is meant by plain pieces, what is meant by building up, etc. So this is a plain piece. What does it mean? There exists an open subset. By the way, that's very important. All these are open there as well as here in R2. So in the model plane, model is as I said, plane is our standard, Euclidean plane is our model. Using this, its subsets, open subsets. Some people say whole plane. Let's not worry about it. So, to get a surface, so what you do, you at every point, you will have an open subset. So, this is your open subset. This open subset has to be homeomorphic to an open subset of R2. That's all. So, at every point to start with, that's enough. Okay. So, S is a surface in our this. If it is not there, whatever I said is enough. Now I have to make it more clear because it is in R3. So, S is a surface in R3 if at every point there is a neighborhood or there is an open set that is homeomorphic to an open subset of R3. That's all what it is. But we have to make it clear. If for all points P in S, so let me draw pictorially a little, clarify. So, this is too much of writing, let's not worry about it. This is our surface, or maybe more standard kind of a surface. Let me write, let me take. Okay. So, take any point here, then there is an open set. What does it mean? We have to see. And here you have the plane. In the plane there is an open set. And there is a homeomorphism from this to this. So, that's crude way, but let us do it. There are. Now, what is the meaning of this is open? Because we are saying this is pushed inside R3, will also, it's in the subspace topology. So, let me make it more precise, though it is not very important. You can say open on this subspace topology, which is made a little more precise, nothing else. Okay. Then, so this is already, there is an open set U, and this has to be open means what? There is an open set in R3 whose intersection with this is this. So, we make that also as Presley does. So, let us do that. There exist open sets U in R2, that's here, and here what you do is this will be intersection of an open set in R3 with the surface. So, and W in R3, then this homeomorphism, and a homeomorphism. So, this is where structure comes. So, it is only topological, nothing else we have said this. Okay. Homeomorphism sigma from U. Actually, we are only interested in this this neighborhood N, but to say it's a neighborhood, that means it should contain, I shouldn't forget P. It should contain P, and it is open on the surface in the relative or the subspace topology means there must be an open set. That's what we have taken. So, W intersection S. So, that's what I have written N, in neighborhood N. W is open in R3, therefore W intersection S is open in S, but in the subspace topology. Homeomorphism thus such that somewhere you should write it should contain P. P belongs to the intersection or P belongs to W. That's all. If this happens, then this is N is a neighborhood of P in S, and this neighborhood is homeomorphic to U. So this is the, I mean, if you don't want to put in R3, you say there is a neighborhood. The matter is over even in general definition. So that's, at present we are doing this. Okay, so no more extra assumption. So this is, sometimes people call this because nothing else is assumed, then we call this topological surface. Okay, of course we are not just sitting, I mean, we want to go a little further. Okay, so that's more of differential structure. We want differentiability, so we will look at what is to be done, which is very simple from here on. You have this surface. At every point you have a neighborhood that's homeomorphic to some open subset of this is in R2, and this guy sits in R3. This happens at every point. But remember, if you take one of them, this may also cover many other points. For so many points, this one open set will work. It's not necessary that you have to take different open sets for every point. So one itself will work. But what is important is that there must be at least one neighborhood for each point. So if you will have to take neighborhoods in such a way that it should take care of, finally it should take care of all of them. In a very standard language of topology, it says it should cover these open sets that you take, each of them homeomorphic to some open set of R2, should cover the whole of it. Okay, so what is important is, let's write this first. This one, U sigma from U to this, whatever we wrote there, W intersection S is called a chart, sometimes it's called, or in our better language we would also say, or a parameterization, but parameterization of only this portion. Locally, some neighborhood is parameterized by that. Okay, parameterization. Chart is used slightly more general. Parameterization of this W intersection S, which is a neighborhood of some of the point P that we said, or maybe so many points also. All the points in this, it's a neighborhood. Okay, a parameterization. Now, S is a surface, therefore this collection, the collection of all, because for every point you need one such neighborhood, so the collection of all, well, I shouldn't write the, because there is a lot of a collection of such charts on S that forms a cover for S, forms a cover. This cover is the standard topological definition of cover. So this W intersection S, you keep varying this W so that it will cover the whole of S, then that covers S is called an atlas. So, well, atlas is the standard language, you can say if you are opening, but it's not very nice terminology in some sense. For instance, if you take an atlas, the countries cover it. Countries, the ocean, whatever those colored objects. But the difference here and there is, there they meet only on the boundary. That's what we generally understand, but it's not also, there are no man's area, all those, let's not worry about it. But what we want to say is that our atlas, so each of this could be considered as a chart, as a country, not in the atlas of the world, so that countries can overlap. That's the difference between, we are more liberal. Mathematicians are more liberal. We don't want to separate countries like that. So that is called the atlas. So let's look at a couple of examples, and how many are required depending upon your choice. There may be many atlases. One person may start with one atlas, another may get another atlas. It's not necessary that you should have the same atlas. So there's an advantage for it because you can have your own atlas. There is also a disadvantage because whatever that you are going to now discuss, if you take different atlases, whatever property that you discuss, it should not depend on the atlas. Then for a particular atlas, one property is true. For the other, it is not. If that happens, then all that we do have no value. Okay. So advantage as well as disadvantage. So advantages, you can start with any atlas and work. That's computationally it's easier. Whereas you also have to ensure that things do not depend on, results do not depend on atlas, so that all of us get the same result. Okay, so that's the thing. Of course, examples, if you start, the simplest of all examples is a plane, xy plane. Let us look at xy plane. Planes should be the first surfaces. I took xy plane, but doesn't matter, any plane also we can. But let us look at xy plane. So I want the set of all, this is S is equal to the set of all x comma y 0. This is certainly a subset of R3. Why is this a surface? So you need, at every point you need a neighborhood. So this is your xy plane. Okay, this is your xy plane. So how do I get? How many I require? For an atlas, how many you can? Of course, you can have too many of them. You can also reduce it. You can also look at things that, minimum, so that it's easy to work with. So if you look at here, what would be the minimum? This is a plane, and you need you need open subsets of plane homeomorphic to neighborhoods here. The simplest of all that you can imagine is the whole plane can work enough. Your U can be taken as R2. It's an open subset, and from R2 to this standard map. So what is your what is that you are going to get? Open subset of R3 whose intersection is the xy plane. That you can take your W to be R3. So what is W intersection S? You don't keep write all this generally, but at least for once at least you should see this. So whole R3 intersection with this, but this is contained in R3. So if A is contained in B, A intersection B is A. So that's exactly equal to S. So the whole surface we can get with one. Let us see how do we do. What is sigma from U to W? The map. So we will write sigma x comma y is equal to, what is the natural? It should be an element here. You just stare at it, you see what you do. You take x comma y comma 0. Now you can check that it is certainly an element in S, W intersection S, no issue. And is it 1, 1? Clearly it's 1, 1. It's on to. Is it a homeomorphism to the surface, to the plane, and the subspace topology? That's quite simple to check. Okay, so there is no issue at all. Projections are continuous, so it is continuous map, and inverse is standard function. Same way, xy0 come back to xy, which is also continuous here because the projections are continuous again. So therefore, any function from anything to a product is continuous if and only if the projection maps are continuous. So look at the projection maps. xy going to x is continuous, xy going to y is continuous, xy going to 0, it's a constant function, continuous, everything is fine. So it's a homeomorphism. So sigma is a homeomorphism. So one chart is our atlas. There is only one. So your atlas A is just, some people write, I mean I didn't write it, so we call this an atlas, but some people write, or a chart. Some people call this chart not just this, they also call u comma the function sigma together, if you like. So therefore you can say R2 sigma, just one element is the whole of atlas. One element will do. So before going further, I mean we said xy plane. Look at a general plane. Okay, so planes in general in R2. One thing that you should understand, a plane in R2 should be a two-dimensional object. That's the general understanding of plane. So if it is passing through the origin, then there are advantages because they are linear subspaces. So you can use linear algebra. Okay, so plane P passing through origin or containing origin. Okay, so it has it's a linear subspace, so you can also get basis. So let us take, let A, B be a basis for P. Linear basis, I mean that. Okay. A two-dimensional plane passing through the origin is a two-dimensional vector subspace of R3. Even Rn this is true. Okay. So wherever you want, you can do it. It's very easy. Basis for P. So that means that is P is equal to the set of all sum. I use these for vectors. So for scalars, you can use maybe the standard way of doing. Let me write u comma u a. A is a vector, u is a scalar, plus v b, where u v r. This is the two-dimensional subspace. This is a basis, so every element is a linear combination of basic vectors, and you get this. So that's what I mean by writing P is equal to that. And now already you know. So your U is going to be R2, and again W is equal to R3. So W intersection P is actually equal to P itself, because this is already a subset of R3. A, B are vectors in R3. Okay, so this is contained in R3, two-dimensional subspace. And what's your sigma? Sigma chart from U to W we defined. Already you can see from the way we have written as, from here it's clear. Sigma U comma V, this is R2. So every point of R2 is here. This is equal to UA plus VB. So it's a bijection, and linear maps, they are continuous, and this is the inverse also is going to be, easily you can check that it's continuous. So this is a homeomorphism. Sigma is a homeomorphism. Now in case your plane doesn't contain 0, so in R3 you can have planes which do not pass through origin. So what you do, take any point, plane containing 0, plane not containing 0. Containing this. What do you do? So you do one thing, plane P1. So what you do, let's take some point. Let C be a point of P1. Any point you can take. Then look at P and set P is equal to P1 minus C. Now you see, C is an element here. What is P1 minus C? P1 minus C is the set of all x minus C. X varies over P1. Basically what you want, you have a plane here, you have origin here, there is a vector C here, just subtract it. The moment you subtract it, the whole plane parallelly brings to this. You can see that there is no intersection between them. They are parallel. So, now we know how to parameterize this. For P we have a parameterization. Now how to get P1? Just add C. So P1 is equal to P plus C. So the parameterization is over. So your sigma, everything is set up as it is. U is equal to R2, W is this, and sigma, the map sigma is sigma U comma V is equal to elements here can be written using this, then you add that. So UA plus VB plus C, that's it. Where A and B are already linearly independent vectors in this P. Now, you can also add, which we will be doing when we study, more conditions on A and B. Not only that they are linearly independent, you can demand that they should be of length 1, normal vectors. And if you still want more strong condition, you can even say they are orthonormal. So such conditions, because in any two-dimensional subspace, you can always get an orthonormal basis, Gram-Schmidt process. You have a basis, then you can orthonormalize it. Dot product, using dot product as. So this is the very general, A and B are linearly independent, C is any vector. Then this is the most general parameterization of, most general structure of a plane. Any plane in R3, you will have this, where of course UV, sigma, you should write sigma from R2 to R3. R3 actually it is P1, which is certainly contained in R3. So that's the thing. So general equation of a plane or parameterization of a plane is this. Depending upon your plane, A, B, C are obtained. Even otherwise, if you are given A, B, C, 3 vectors such that A and B are linearly independent, this gives the equation of a plane or parameterization of a plane. Whichever way you want. So for planes, generally one chart would do for the atlas. It covers the whole. So we are done. But that's not the case with always everything. So let us look at a slightly more non-trivial example, which is very natural to go like lines, and then we move to circle in our one-dimensional case. In two-dimensional case, this is a natural object. This is a bit problem because one will not work. The reason is very simple. If you take any open subset of R2 and look at this to say general notation for S sphere is S2. S2 stands for the dimension. So that is two-dimensional sphere. S1 is one-dimensional, which is circle, and so on. Okay. This can never be a homeomorphism because U is open in R2. So if the image is equal to S2 and if it is a homeomorphism, this is compact. So this should have been compact. But open subsets of R2 are not compact, okay, non-empty. Okay? So therefore, you can never get S2 by one chart. You need more than one. There are umpteen number of ways one can do economical, non-economical, and whichever way you like. Okay, so a very standard kind of example. I mean, standard kind of work is the following. That's so this is the origin. Okay. Now, if you look at the sphere, let us look at sphere upward, the upper hemisphere. Upper hemisphere is of course bent, but if you just flatten it, it becomes exactly like a disc. Of course, flattening is, these are all intuitive ideas. I mean, you can imagine what is being done. It's like a balloon that you fill it, then it becomes a object like this. When you deflate it, what you get is a flat kind of a rubber sheet. That kind of a feel if you take, then this upper one, if you flatten it, you get a disc. So this process can be easily converted in mathematically. That's easier, but if you can understand it. So this upper hemisphere, that's an open subset intersect. If you look at the upper half plane, what is the upper half plane? Z greater than 0. A set of all points x, y, z such that, so your W is going to be the set of all x, y, z such that z is greater than 0. Upper half plane. If you intersect with this, what you get is set of all points here such that the z coordinate is positive. That is the upper half sphere, hemisphere. And what we are saying is, our intuition is that that can be homeomorphic to the disk. So your u is going to be in the plane xy such that x square plus y square is less than 1. That's the unit disk. So what you do, I want a map from, I mean, you can imagine, you imagine xy plane itself is your plane, and in which this lies. I mean, actually this is part of R2. So it is not, but just for imagining, we can imagine this. Then if I take a point, there is a natural way to get an image in the upper hemisphere. Just go upward. So it will hit the sphere somewhere. We just have to write. But remember, there is an x coordinate here. There is also a y coordinate here. And for this point also, the x coordinate and y coordinate are same. So only thing changes is z coordinate. That you can find out. What is the z coordinate? Because you should have x square plus, I should write this for at least once at least, x, y, z such that x square plus y square plus z square equal to 1. That is the sphere. Okay. So where will you push an element here? Well, if you like, we can as a convention, we keep doing this. U square plus b square for our parameterization. So where will you send? U square uv, sigma uv. If our intuition goes well, the x coordinate, and because we are just changing the z coordinate, x coordinate and y coordinate remains there. So this will be u and v unchanged. What will be the last coordinate? What is important? U square. If I write z here, then what is necessary? It should be on the sphere. That means u square plus v square plus z square equal to 1. Therefore, z square has to be u square plus 1 minus u square plus v square. So therefore, z has to be plus or minus u square plus v square, 1 minus u square plus v square. But you check, this is in the upper half. Therefore, it has to be positive. So therefore, this has to be root of 1 minus u square minus v square. U square plus v square in bracket, so change it. So positive. Now you can check that this is a homeomorphism. This, if you say this could be z plus, you can say z plus means z coordinate positive. Okay, that's what it does. But no, this object is same. Here I will put sigma z plus just for fun, okay, just to say. So the positive side of x-axis we can do this. Now you can also do same u, you can take, disk is the same, z minus uv. That is for the lower one. So what will you do? This before that, this is certainly homeomorphism. Again, bijection is very easy because this will determine the bijection. One is easy, u1 v1 equal to, the image is equal, then the x coordinate, y coordinates are equal, so u and v, so done. Onto is also easy because given any x, y, z, look at just the first and second coordinates. But remember, the u square plus v square plus z square equal to 1. Therefore, u square plus v square will be less than or equal to 1. It will be equal to 1 provided this is 0. But you are taking the upper hemisphere. So, z coordinate is always non-zero. Therefore, u square plus v square is strictly less than 1. So, it will be an element here and done. So, it is onto. And continuity, both sides, just projection work is enough. So, therefore, it is homeomorphism. Now, what about the lower one? For the lower one, there is nothing. Just take minus of that. So, upper hemisphere is done, lower hemisphere is done. Are we done? Now, the problem is this is also not enough because what about the equator? We have not done. So, for that, this circle at the central, it's called the equator. We have not covered, only z positive, z negative. What about z equal to 0? So, for that, you need another. So, what you do is take x positive and then again do the same work. So, you will have first coordinate has to be positive, that u comma v, here you write root of 1 minus u square minus v square and so on. So, you will have zx plus, similarly zx minus. Have you done? Even now you are not done because x equal to 0, what will you do? On this circle, x is positive we have done, x is negative we have done, but there are 2 points, x equal to 0 here and its other side there is x equal to 0. X equal to 0 will be here, sorry, and x equal to 0 this side. Both those points are not covered. This side, this hemisphere is done, that hemisphere is done. So, this 2 points and the circle, in fact, one full circle is, but upper side of the and the lower side of the circle we have already covered, no issue. But these 2 points are still missing. So, for that you take y positive and negative. So, I will write sigma y plus, sigma y minus. So, y minus. So, you can write down all of them and you get an atlas. This is very uneconomical. There are much simpler one, I will tell later. So, this is called the atlas. So, there will be, it is not enough, the same u you can take. Properly you decide which variable you put and which variable you are going to put this. So, u can be the same, but these functions are all different. Here it is different. In x plus case, this sigma x plus is going to be uv is going to be, for a change I am writing, this is, first coordinate has to be positive. So, leave it there. This is u, this is v, and this is root of 1 minus u square minus v square. So, the x coordinate will be positive. Sigma x minus, this will be minus of that. That will be the rear side of the sphere. And for y plus, the right side of the sphere, y minus left side of the sphere, that will take care of these 2 points, it will take all of them. So that is how we get an atlas. For a, say a simpler one, or it will not be simpler, it will be smaller one, we will see later.